Ladies and gentlemen, from EE, please welcome Head of Customer Technology and Innovation Customer Service, David Walker.
Good afternoon. I think it's just me standing between you and your lunch now, so hopefully you'll find this interesting. And it's the story of our journey of knowledge transformation with eGain in EE. So first I'm going to start with a little bit of context around what is EE for those of you guys that don't know, and a little bit about customer service. It just gives you a little bit of an idea of the scale that we've done the transformation on. So firstly, UK, we're the biggest and fastest network in the UK. We're now part of the BT Group, which is the largest and most advanced digital communication company in Britain, delivering mobile and fixed communications. And we have around 553 retail stores and service more than 31 million connections across mobile and fixed networks. And EE runs the UK's biggest and fastest mobile network, pioneering the UK's first super-fast 4G mobile service in October 2012, and the first European operator to surpass 14 million 4G customer landmark. EE's 4G coverage today reaches more than 95% of the UK population, with unique double speed, and 4G reaching 75%. EE's 2G coverage is 99% of the population, and 3G reaches 98%. EE's super-fast fibre broadband covers around 80% of the UK population, and ADSL 98 points. And just a brief history of EE. So it all started off in Bristol and Boreham Wood. So EE was formed in 2010 following the merger of Orange and T-Mobile, and at that point in time we were called Everything Everywhere. T-Mobile began as Mercury One-to-One, founded in Boreham Wood in the early 90s, and rebranded to One-to-One before being purchased by Deutsche Telekom in '99, and then rebranded as T-Mobile. Orange was founded in Bristol in 1996 and became the youngest ever company to enter the FTSE 100. It was acquired by France Telecom in 2000 and bought Wanadoo to add fixed services to the broadband alongside the mobile offering. And we're investing more than 15 billion building Britain's biggest network. And just a couple of stats. So the UK's first 4G. So we have 4G in more than 600 cities and large towns, and more than 6,000 small towns and villages, and 95% plus population coverage. Expanding 4G coverage by 2,000 square miles, massive every month, and more than 14 million 4G customers. And we have the UK's biggest 3G network also, and we're continuing to invest in that by growing out month on month. So a little bit about customer service now. So we have 6 in-house sites dotted around the UK. We have partners in UK, Ireland, and India, and we have around 10,000 advisors, around 80% of those within the UK and Ireland, and 20% in India. So let's move on to the really interesting topic, which is customer service transformation with eGain Knowledge. So I'm going to run you through the challenge. So why did we do it? What was the reason we embarked on this journey? Second, what we did and what we delivered. Third, what results have we seen? I've got some results to share with you on the success we've seen with this. What we learned, and what's next. So to get started, the first challenge we had was we had a huge variation in performance. So we looked at that, and why were we getting such a variance? Because performance is a mixture of people and process. So is it the people delivering great service regardless of the process? Or is it the process delivering great service regardless of the person? And as I say, when we looked at range in performance, we had huge variance on customer satisfaction, we had huge variance on handle time of calls, we had huge variance on answers given to customers. We had a little bit of a problem because customers were calling us back to check what we've said was correct. And because of the variance, you sometimes would get a different answer when you phoned in. So you could ring in 3 times and get 3 different results. which isn't great, because there's only one right answer generally for these things. But what we found, and this was really helpful later, was our best people could crack it. So our best agents were absolutely bringing the numbers in with the right handle time and delivering a great customer experience. And we used this later on in the story as I continue through, because using that knowledge we got from the best agents really helped us to create really compelling content to run through. The second challenge was, as I said, the journey where we've gone from T-Mobile and Orange combining, we had 4 knowledge tools. We had a T-Mobile knowledge tool. We had an Orange knowledge tool. We did diagnosis in Orange separately. And we'd also introduced a 4th tool to add to that. All of these tools were based around searching predominantly, with the exception of the diagnostics. And what we found when we measured it was we were getting around 10% consistent use of knowledge. So our advisors were using knowledge correctly and accurately, consistently, around 10% of the time. The knowledge information was inconsistent. So when we across the different systems, the same process may have a number of different instructions. We were using tick sheets to capture contact reasons. And we found those, I don't know if you guys find the same, but pretty problematic. Years ago, we thought we had a major problem with the answer phone. It just so happens it was the top of the list of the selected reasons. So we were worrying about that, and in reality, that wasn't the case at all. And we had, believe it or not, over 20,000 articles across the knowledge base. Now, when I first started, we had a flip chart on the desk that had 20 pages in with all of the help and knowledge you need. If you think 20,000 articles, if you printed those out and taped them together, you can hang them from the top of Big Ben, you can hang them on the BT Tower, you can hang them on Tower Bridge. You know, before you got arrested for doing that, essentially, you know, it's massive, absolutely massive. It's just completely where technology comes in and helps us here. So why did we choose eGain? I mean, obviously, we went through an RFP process as we would normally do, but the key reasons for eGain, number one, it had the capabilities we wanted to drive us forward. Secondly, we really felt the eGain team had a desire to work with us and help us realize our ambition. And thirdly, to collaborate as we grow, because this isn't a journey that we want to stop, we want to continue with. So we wanted some collaboration with that on the route, and that's what we feel eGain brings to the table. So what we did and what we delivered next. So we got the inspiration from the NHS and the processes they use on the ground that we can't afford to get it wrong. You know, we had a real problem with getting it wrong, and we absolutely wanted to crack that problem. So we looked at what other organisations, such as NHS, were doing to actually get it right. And like most things, I don't know if you guys do the same, but we have a habit of naming systems, and our advisors love to be part of that process as well. And we called it Albert. No abbreviation for anything. It's after Albert Einstein, because they felt it was a real, you know, expert knowledge in one place. So the key features we've implemented, kind of summarized, is we pass in customer and device information into the knowledge. We give the advisors the ability to pause and resume sessions. We do this so that if we need to break a process with a customer, so we need to stop and get them to go away and do something, we can allow them to do that and come back and not have to start explaining it again, which was a problem we had previously. We also save the guided help information into our CRM system, so anyone across the company, you know, wider than customer service, can see what's happened there. This is a quick shot of the system as the advisor lands on it. There's a step before this where the advisor puts the phone number into a system we call Toolkit that our IT teams develop, and then they launch into Albert. And what that does is it transfers the customer information into the knowledge system, and then we start a journey there. So there's a number of different sections, customer service and billing, network. It's the primary issue the customer's ringing about initially that we go through. And as I mentioned, pre-answering questions is really important because we use it for two purposes. Number one, it helps us minimize the number of questions we need to ask the customers. And our customers think we're daft if we keep asking things that we already know about them. The second reason it's really useful for reporting at the end, because we've got a snapshot in time of some key information there, what planned the customer on, what the balance was, and those things. And that becomes super helpful later, which we'll go through. And what we present to the advisors is pretty much a three-column screen. The first column, as quite a dry example here, but nothing contentious in it. The first column is the question, and there's two or more answers to the question. And the advisor goes through and answers a series of questions which drives ultimately to a resolution. The second column is the advisor help. Now, what we haven't done is we haven't taught our advisors to work like robots and script everything. It was very important to us that we didn't do that because it creates an unnatural flow of conversation. There are things at times, such as regulatory information, that we need to read out to cover it off, in which case we do script it, but predominantly we give the advisor the ability to deliver great customer service and give an engaging flow. But what we have in there is some useful hints and tips on the conversation. We also then help the guys how to do it in the system. So the second bit are, in naming conventions, our CRM is called Excalibur. So the instructions are there on what to do within the CRM. And that's really helpful in terms of saving time training because you've got what you need to do on the screen there. We also cover any other useful hints and anything else for the customer in that middle section. And then on the right-hand side, we have some control buttons there. Feedback we'll come on and talk about in a moment. Restart, so if you've gone completely down the wrong route, you can start right back again and move through. But we also have what we call Albert breaking news. Now, this isn't information on content, because we just update the content. This is things to add a little bit of context around it. We make sure that's visible all the time in case there's anything relevant that's come up outside of the guided help. So on to feedback now. What we found really important is it is absolutely imperative we have the content correct. It's really, really important on that. And if there's something wrong, we need our advisors to tell us so that we can fix it, or certainly review it and see whether it is incorrect. So we have a feedback button on every single page. So if there is anything wrong or anything needs improving on those articles, just simply hit the feedback button, and that feeds through to our knowledge team. And what our knowledge team do there, and we have a very tight SLA on that, typically we will get a response back to an advisor within 24 hours. So when the advisor feeds the feedback in, that is reviewed by the content team, and they make a decision. Is it something that is, is it an error in the content, or is it something simply that needs to be fixed, or is it something that's changed recently that we haven't updated? If it's a straightforward change, the content is updated, a response is sent back, and then we start that cycle again. If it's a more complicated change that needs further review, we hold sessions with a more senior audience and process teams to make sure that we thoroughly review it, because again, we don't want to get it wrong. It's vitally important we've got the right information here. And we find that really effective, and the feedback loop's really important because it encourages people to feedback. And we get several hundred bits of feedback a week, of which about 10–15% of those actually result in change. Some is just clarity of information. So on to what we delivered effectively through the rollout. So we deployed the product, and we deployed the content, and we trained over 10,000 advisors and over, 553 retail stores, essentially. So we use this in customer service and retail. From a knowledge content perspective, from our 20,000 individual articles to 10 guided help case bases. Now, 10's not, I'm sure you guys, when you have conversations around it, 10's not necessarily a number you need to aim for, but it's what we found was the right balance in terms of the number of case spaces to set up there. We did a complete overhaul and rewrite of the knowledge content and set standards up for that. That ensures that we've got consistency in the way it's presented, and it really helps our frontline advisors. We have clear content ownership and accountability. Previously, we let the process teams write a lot of the content, but what we found is it wasn't particularly customer or advisor savvy. So we actually used our best advisors to help us write this back to that quartile slide. There's people there that really know how to do it. They also know how to articulate it. So if you share that information, you can make a huge difference. And the accountability for knowledge was really key here. Because the reason we had the challenge previously with inconsistency is accountability had drifted off over time. And we have a single knowledge content team for which we have a core team, and then we second advisors in to make sure we're fresh. The core team as well also spend time on the phones, because it's vastly important that we keep that knowledge fresh and keep the people fresh with what's really going on in the contact centres. And we also now capture automated contact reasons. So we retired two previously widely used capture tools. And all of this is done automatically. There's no box to fill in. There's nothing to click. There's nothing to get wrong. It is done as part of the process. And more on that in a little while. So what we found. So in the front line, we found that first contact resolution improved. So we did a case study to measure this specifically, because we've done quite a lot of transformation and change at the same time. As you guys know, it's quite difficult sometimes to actually work out what's driven what change. So when guided help's used correctly, we were measuring first contact resolution on 85% of calls. When it wasn't used at all, the old way, 62%. So huge increase there, 23%. We found also guided help contributed to a 20% increase in Net Promoter Score. We measure, as we discussed earlier, customer satisfaction. At the end of each call, we send the customers a text, and we use that to measure the customer satisfaction, and we use Net Promoter Score as one of the methods for that. We've also seen complaints reduce as a result of this. From a training perspective, when we get new hire and new intake, guided help has reduced our training time from at least 14 working days down to 8. Yeah. We've not compromised the training there. We're teaching the guys how to use the system rather than cramming their heads full of processes, procedures, devices, and things like that. We've lightened that up now because all the answers are in the guided help. We've improved speed to competency. So this is the time from a new advisor joining to being competent at serving customers effectively, from 6 months, which was often extended, down to 3 months. So 50% improvement there. You know, this has been huge in terms of training. Yeah. We found we had another problem then. We needed to get our log-ons done much quicker because we were getting people through training and get our HR set up. So, you know, it's interesting. One problem that fixed actually drives the next opportunity. And from a frontline perspective, just to kind of summarize up what we saw. So from a customer perspective, consistent information is given. If you ring back up to check it's correct, you will get the same message. We have a better customer experience as a result of that because we're giving the right information at the right time through a structured method. And that's really improved our customer service as the results we covered off a few moments ago. From a business perspective, we've improved first contact resolution significantly. We've aligned the handle time, so we've moved from massive variance in handle time to a fairly aligned handle time now. We've reduced complaints, and we've reduced training. That sounds a little bit negative, reduced training, doesn't it? But effectively, we've made training much more effective and made the people more effective as a result of this. And from an advisor perspective, they have the knowledge at the fingertips. Their KPIs are achievable. If you follow the guided help, you will succeed. Very straightforward. And advisor confidence is much stronger because we're not scrambling around trying to search for things and hunting through the 4th page of search results. We found search pretty challenging from that perspective because you really needed to know how to search. You no longer need to. But beyond the front line, this is probably the one that personally I thought we knew we were going to get this. It was common sense this is what we were going to get. But until you've actually got this data, you don't realize how powerful it is. So we use the call reasons. So the agents follow the guided help, the data gets transformed. We attach some additional metrics to it. So it's joining data together. So we attach the call center metrics, the satisfaction surveys, etc. And then we've got insight that answers 2 particular problems. Number 1, it gives business awareness of call drivers, which we didn't really have effectively previously. And secondly, people and performance management to make sure that we can continually evolve and make sure the advisors are working to best in class. We have a company-wide program, and we focus a lot in what we call propensity to contacts, the number of times a customer contacts us each year. And we effectively split these into 2 categories. One is, what does customer service own? Because that's our problem to fix, to be fair. It's, no one else's problem to fix. And then other products, services, propositions that are business owned. And we do regular weekly tracking. And we have a company-wide program to actually drive these initiatives to make sure we're making improvements and to make sure we're making the right decisions now from a customer service perspective when we're launching propositions. Because previously, our marketeers had some fantastic ideas, but we didn't always think through the customer service element. And the data that we get, out of the back of eGain joined with other information is super powerful. And we have clear accountability for this. And that's one theme we've had all the way through, from content to improvements. It's all about real clear accountability. And what we found through the drive to reduce propensity to contact is we group the call reasons into business functions and track them weekly. So very frequent tracking, very real-time information. Established for each of those the clear accountability and ownership, and we got 100% buy-in across the business. So we had top-down buy-in to make sure that happened. People couldn't hide away anymore if something had happened. They had to follow up and fix things when we had any props issues. And the key learning that we found was we had the most successful period of reducing propensity to contact following implementation and making sure we had the accountability because we had the tangible data there to make it happen than we'd had over previous years. So it really helped us in that perspective. We also allow analysts across the business to deep dive the call reasons so everyone can get under the bonnet and see. And as I say, previously we did not have this capability to do that. And now that we had this rich information, you can really get down into the detail. You can see the difference between particular handsets on performance, for example. And we had a great piece come out very early on this, which was we picked up a variance in performance with a certain handset from a certain manufacturer. And we pulled that out and we contacted the manufacturer and said, text message problems seem to be completely out of the norm for, your particular device. It's completely different to what we're seeing across the rest of the range. So we fed that in, and we also fed some insight that we'd got from it with a little bit more detail. And within around a week, that manufacturer had updated the software on the handset and pushed it out to the customers and fixed a problem. You would never find that previously. Because in 40-odd million calls a year, it's a needle in a haystack, and we're talking a few hundred calls here. But you could find that data, and that's been super helpful because it allows you to pick things up that you just wouldn't find previously. And we essentially, week on week, month on month, we rank the call reason information that we get out of eGain tied with the other data. And we put it into effectively a league table to work out what do we need to focus on to give the biggest impact. Because you can't change everything at once, so we break it down into the key things that are going to give the biggest value return. And we cut that by first contact resolution and customer satisfaction results. And that helps us prioritize our continuous improvement activities. And what we've done as well is we've linked the contact reasons to the call recording. So joining up the data gives you massively more powerful information. And we allow our agents, our managers, and our quality teams to listen to those call recordings. I think one of the key things we did as well, we gave our advisors the ability to listen to best practice calls. So with the contact reasons now, we can pick out calls that are really good quality in a certain, specifically complicated thing. So it might be a signal issue, for example. And those tend to be quite complicated processes. There's a lot of variable in there. But we can actually demonstrate to the advisors then what good looks like. And by joining data up, it makes a huge, huge difference in terms of what we can achieve there. So what we learned. These are the things that we kind of picked up that we weren't expecting as we came through. So first point was, we implemented, as I mentioned earlier, we did a wider kind of customer service transformation program at the same time. One thing we did as part of that was implement dual screens. And dual screens really helped us here in combination with the knowledge transformation, because it allows the advisor to work on the left or the right, whichever the preference is, screen with the guided help and walk through there, and then execute the transactions on the systems on the other screen. And that really was a great partnership with guided help to make that work. Secondly, as you can probably see, reporting was something that was really, really amazing. As I say, we knew we were going to get it, but we just didn't know how powerful this was going to be to help us both within customer service and in the wider organisation. And completely transparent reporting back to the advisors to ensure they understand how they're performing. We have a target of 90% guided help usage, which is regularly exceeded there, because there are obviously odd calls where it's just a random call that you wouldn't use it for. But we set targets there, so we help the team managers and the advisors ensure they're following that correctly. The other thing we found, and it was probably a real biggie that we didn't expect it to be such a challenge, was we moved from search to guided help. And it was a huge cultural shift, especially from our long-serving advisors, to actually move between search and guided help. And it did take quite a lot of work. There was quite a lot of stick there to keep it moving forward. But what we did find when we measured it, you could prove it statistically, time and time again, the people, long-term new starters that were following guided help had significantly better performance metrics than those that didn't follow it correctly. So it kind of sold itself in using the metrics back to the point above. And the final point is IT resiliency. So people who have been around a while still have quite a lot of knowledge in their head. But when we get onto IT resiliency, it's really important that if anything goes wrong, if you mess up your content deployment or anything like that, that you've got some form of standby that you can switch to, because the guys are flying blind if they lose the system. So really, really important there to make sure you've got the contingency in place if anything does happen to go wrong. So what next? So this is what our kind of logical next step, some of this is. So the first thing, as I mentioned earlier, we're really keen not to deploy something, say, hey, this is great, and sit on it, and effectively not move it forward. So, our current plan is we're looking to upgrade to the latest version and make sure that that's, effective for us. We exploit any new capabilities and keep it current. The second, how can we leverage guided help for our customers? Because we've done some great things within the contact center. The logical next step is, how can we give that to our customers? And what will we need to do that? So that's something we're really, really super keen on at the moment. And as I mentioned, the key theme is let's keep current, let's continue to improve, and let's keep exploiting what we've done and what we've achieved. We can't sit on this one. We've got to keep it moving forward and continue to build on it. And that's what our next steps with eGain. Thank you very much.